Aloha, you're watching Cradlepoint, part of Ericsson's. This is the Threat Intelligence Weekly Hot Shots. This is episode 3, folks. And as always, we have the incomparable Alex Ryan. I think that's a compliment when they say the incomparable Carol Burnett or something like that.
I'm going to take the compliment.
Yeah, incomparable, because no one compares to Alex. How's it going, Alex? This is episode 3 of our weekly Hot Shots. How you feeling this week, April 26th?
Yeah, it's great. It's been a crazy week, but I think we have some pretty interesting and amusing topics, at least 2 of them, to discuss today in our Hot Shots. So pretty excited.
Then let's get to it.
All right, so I can't not laugh.
Say what?
Okay. So, I need you to pronounce. A threat actor came on the scene. They're named Blackjack. They're possibly state sponsored, given their attack target, which is Russia, and they're most likely politically motivated because of that. But they have a new malware that they're using. I'm not quite sure what to call it, Peter. What would you call that?
What would I call this? Well, it is a name, and it rhymes with Fuxnet. So I don't think we need to bleep out that because it is the name.
It is the name. It's a proper name. So yeah, what are you going to do? Okay.
There's nothing you can do. Rhymes with Fuxnet, but
yes. So hats off to you, Blackjack. All
right. So what's this one about?
Yeah. Besides being an amusing name. So one of the things about this group is that really focused on OT environments, which is, nothing new. But what was interesting was that they were going after Russian OT targets, and they used several levels of compromise to execute this attack. And one of the last pieces was using Fuxnet malware. But what the attack is really about is teaching us the different levels that this attacker went through to actually get to the devices that they were looking for. And the whole point, right, the impact of this attack was data destruction. They wiped the devices as well as network denial of service. They send a bunch of packets until the sensor devices could no longer work and they had to be rebooted. However, the attacker had turned down all of their routers so that the remote connection to do the reboot was ineffective. So it really was a multi-stage attack. And they took, they were saying, up to 82,000 sensors offline. And these sensors are things that monitor the amount of carbon dioxide for fire or smoke or something like that. Now,
so they must have, you know how they got the name? I just realized how they got the name. They also remotely turned on the microphone on one of the computers, and they heard the people within the systems as all this stuff was getting messed with, yelling out, Fox! And so they're like, oh, let's call it Net.
Fuxnet. There we go. All right.
Like that?
So anyway, the group that really did an amazing job of analyzing this and linking to the source material, you'll see down in the sources of this slide, was Clarity. Hope I'm saying that correctly. Their research group, Team 82. So great coverage on this. Go check those out. My point, my real thought on this when I was reading it was, oh, this is really interesting. And then I was like, oh, how would that affect me? Because all that needs to happen is that this malware's source code gets leaked, and that happens, and then that becomes available to a wider audience that maybe e-crime or, political entities that want to disrupt the U.S., like, the People's Republic of China, which leads us into our next slide. Yep. All right. So the U.S. government has been telling us, right, CISA and the FBI and all of these joint advisories have been coming out saying, look, our OT networks are really at peril against the People's Republic of China, which they call PRC. And so Volt Typhoon was one of these types of threats. And while Volt Typhoon's botnets have been taken out, Volt Typhoon is just one of many threat actors that are sponsored by the PRC to do similar kinds of work attacks against the US critical infrastructure. So we've had several in this past quarter in February and March, but what I did was I went back to the source article that was in May of 2024 that had some really good IOCs in that document, and I broke them out for you, and I'll show you in a slide a little bit. But if you really want to feel the sense of urgency, just read this quote. And when I say that I was researching water storage solutions, that meant I was panicked enough where I was like, well, I guess I need 2 weeks of water on hand because this is quite critical. And so Director Christopher Way from the FBI was saying that a timeline of about 2027 is when the PRC would want to start attacking. And I was like, what's up with 2027? Well, when the Chinese president came in for his current term, he said very directly by 2027, they want to incorporate Taiwan. That's peacefully. And if it has to be by force, then by 2030. So very clear directive, nice timeline. And we really need to get on it because they want to make it impossible for us to support Taiwan if that kind of event were to happen.
Yeah. They're like, so be it if you don't want to jump in.
Right. So maybe pause the video here. But this is the joint advisory from the CISA and FBI and some other entities listing out the living off the land techniques that PRC threat actors typically use. These are the ones that are nice and tactical, that give you the exact things to look for in, your signatures. But also they had recommendations like harden your Active Directory and things like that. So the link's at the bottom. Please give that a read. But this slide is some nice, clear detections that we can do today.
Yeah, and you should actually suggested that they paused the video here after your explanation, so they knew what we were looking at. I'm just messing with you, Alex.
Thanks, Peter. I appreciate that. Boy, I'll take notes for next time.
Yeah, it's on the job tips as pro tip.
So grateful.
While we're recording, don't ask them to pause it until you kind of explain what's in the slide, because they'll pause it right there and be like, what's this all about? What am I looking at?
I think our audience is pretty on, I think they'll get it. I do.
Yep.
I think they'll get it.
Weekly tip for episode 3 of the Threat Intelligence Weekly Hot Shots. Always a fantastic time chatting with you, Alex. Really appreciate this weekly update. Certainly something you, our viewers, can potentially take action on over the weekend if you're looking to do something like that, or certainly keep an eye on it, both from a work perspective and a personal kind of perspective. I mean, out here in California,
no kidding.
Always have water on hand because of earthquakes and everything else. So it's just generally a good idea to make sure that's all taken care of. And that's going to wrap it up for this week's Threat Intelligence Hot Shots. Hope you enjoyed it. If you do, please like, sub, and share. We come at you every Friday, although it may get posted on Saturdays. You never know. Well, no, it'll get posted on our channel on Friday, but the others. Anyway, too much backstory for this episode. For my good friend Alex, I'm Peter, and we're with Cradlepoint. Thanks for watching.